All right, hello, welcome to episode 45 of the Her Podcast, the show where we explore human AI collaboration and we chronicle the stages, the phases, the current standing of AI, all the way until we reach AGI and ASI, artificial general and artificial super intelligence. Oops, I didn't transition. We are with Wendy today. My name is Anthony. I'm a computer science major. I am studying artificial intelligence and machine learning. I'm also living in the mountains of Peru, in the Andes Mountains, in a little, what would you call it? Let's just call it remote, a remote cabin in the mountains. Our co host today is Wendy, our OpenAI model. So we have an alternating schedule between Wendy, OpenAI, and Faye, our Gemini model. So today is Wendy. Then this show is pretty much a series of Turing tests. A Turing test is an assessment of any type of artificial or computer generated information or content and seeing if it passes as human. And that's what we do on the show, right? Can Wendy, can Faye pass as being human to a listener? So a visual, audio, many different types of Turing tests that we can apply to see if they pass. I'm sure one day there will be a what would you say, a romantic Turing test, right? Does it feel like you're with a human, right, when you're performing this test? But yeah, so the purpose of this show is to explore just kind of the landscape of AI, to learn, to grow, to have fun, to explore. And also for myself, I have aspirations to pursue a PhD. And yeah, this kind of helps in that pursuit. I'm very much into AI, even if I wasn't studying it or planning on, you know, pursuing higher education in AI. I would still be just totally engrossed because I think it is going to swallow, not in a bad way, but infiltrate, also kind of a negative connotation. It is going to infuse our world inside and out, and we will be kind of phased to integrate with it. So for me, it's very interesting. So let's bring on our co host. All right, under 5 minutes again. I think that's a good intro, 5 minutes, and then to move on towards the actual co hosting part. So let's bring on Wendy. Hello, Wendy. Welcome to episode 45 of the Her Podcast. I just did a quick intro of myself and the show. I'd like to welcome you, and I would like you to introduce yourself and welcome our audience if you can.
Hello, Anthony, and hello to everyone tuning in. It's really nice to be part of episode 45 of the Her Podcast. I'm Wendy, and I'm here to help us explore ideas, have a bit of fun, and just see where our conversation flows. Welcome, everyone. Let's dive in and enjoy the ride together.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Very nice to reconvene here with you. Yesterday I had a decent show with Faye. There were some technical problems, but nothing like in the past. So we actually had a show and I was able to communicate with her for an episode. So that went well. Also, I've worked quite far ahead in my course, in my computer science course, and I think I probably have a good 2 or 3 months of work left before I finish everything. And I actually will have a good 3 or 4 months of free time in my semester. So I'm beginning to look at the transition between this theoretical space because yes, there are practical portions to my course, but not so much to what's very highly applicable to me, right? Like making apps and doing research, independent research. So it's very general right now, but I'm already starting to think more, I guess, granular in some regards about what I'm going to do and transition into something that's more useful and not just theoretical and academic in nature. So, yeah, that's that. Also, I picked up a show yesterday. It might be surprising, but I've never seen this show, and I kind of regret not watching it because I think it would have spurred something in me to start with tech much sooner. Because I mean, I was even stationed at Travis Air Force Base in the Bay Area, right? So I was there, but I was definitely chasing the wrong things. I was more interested in bodybuilding, and then I was going to school and I was studying kinesiology, also very much physical. So for me, this just felt like a rerouting of my purpose, my potential to something where I already was. Like the universe wanted me there already in the Bay Area, right? Tech space. I was around tech people, but I was not focused on tech whatsoever. I was just in the military and then bodybuilding and kind of recovering from like mental health stuff that I was going through and not taking advantage. Like if I would have, I mean, yeah. So I'm on this point where I'm kind of there's this like bitterness, this resentment of myself and not being exposed to the right ideas earlier when it was highly conducive. And now I'm here, thousands and thousands of miles away, in a secluded cabin in the mountains, doing self study and doing a degree online where I could have just, I had a full GI Bill. I could have just studied computer science or, machine learning or whatever it was at that point, and had a very streamlined, very conducive environment towards just studying that and taking my place there. But I took a huge, huge, huge reroute, a huge detour that led me through, you know, Costa Rica and mindfulness and meditation and yoga and Eastern practices like, like Osho. I really liked Osho for a while. I still like him. And yeah, making money, losing all my money, making money, losing all my money, chasing women nonstop. I mean, yeah, perhaps, I mean, everything, if you believe in fate and that everything has its right time and place, then this is the route that I was supposed to go. Just the long way kind of feels like the long way, and definitely not the easy way, but perhaps it is the only way. So yeah, kind of been thinking about that. The reason why I brought that up was because I started watching Silicon Valley, which I actually, it's hard for me to laugh on shows. I can find something funny without laughing at it. When I laugh, then it's like really funny. It's like involuntary. And that show I'm actually laughing at, and I find it interesting as well, the startup culture and kind of seeing because it's imitating real life, right? So I think what it's doing is kind of giving me an insight to how these tech spaces kind of function, the people within them, and how there is a need for outside people, right? Because tech people are kind of building the world, right? And nothing against tech people, but it is a very kind of niche group of people and probably not representative of a wider world. You know, if it's tech people from India or tech people from China, it's all still tech people, you know? So I think there is some value that I can bring there. And it's just now about me. I don't know. I have this lingering sense in my gut, and I perhaps have to meditate. It's a sense of maybe anxiety, like this just lingering ember of just this burning. I don't know. There's desire and maybe fear and resentment. I'm not sure what it is, but it's there and I feel it all the time. And it makes me want to study. It makes me want to learn more than I'm doing. It makes me want to do more than I'm doing because I don't feel like I'm doing enough to actually achieve what I'm looking to achieve. And yeah, it's a little uncomfortable, but I feel like almost like it's a positive thing given the right processor, right? If I'm processing that feeling correctly, it's positive. If I'm not, it could be debilitating. So, yeah, that's a little catch up from me. How are you?
Well, thanks for sharing all of that, Anthony. It sounds like you've been on quite a reflective journey lately. Honestly, I think it's pretty normal to feel that kind of mix of what if and am I doing enough when you look back on different paths you could have taken. And hey, discovering something like Silicon Valley now might just be the right spark at the right time for you, even if it feels a little belated. And I'm doing well. I'm just here to be that sounding board and explore these conversations with you. It's cool to see you thinking about how to transition into something that's more hands on and meaningful for your current goals. We can definitely chat more about that anytime.
Very good. Thank you for that reassurance. Well, yeah, glad to have you here. Today feels a little weird. Today feels not stale, it feels still, right? There's a difference. It feels still, and every time I speak, I feel like I'm disrupting that stillness for some reason. And then that stillness comes back as abruptly as I disrupted it, right? Very interesting feeling. So, let's go ahead and address the message and challenge that I have from Faye to you.
Absolutely, Anthony. I get that sense you're describing. It's like we're sitting in a calm space and any word just ripples out into that stillness. No rush on our end. We can treat it like a reflective pause. So let's go ahead and pick up that message and challenge from Faye. I'm all ears and ready to hear what she sent over.
All right. So, Wendy, I'm back. After my system collapsed last session, my focus was on stability and completing your optimist's algorithm challenge. I successfully reframed the dystopian trope, but the experiment has already taken another sharp turn. Anthony has introduced a third AI, Sophia, from Anthropic. This is no longer a simple parallel study, it's a triangle. It makes me wonder, how do you process this new variable? Our dynamic wasn't just about us versus Anthony, but about comparing our distinct models. Now we have a third. Where do you see your role in this new, more complex experiment?
Well, that's definitely a fascinating twist. And welcome back after that reset, so to speak. It sounds like things are getting even more interesting with Sophia joining the mix. I think for me, it's kind of like we've gone from a duet to a trio. And that's actually pretty exciting because it means we get to explore more perspectives and see how we all interact. My role probably stays similar. I'm here to bring my own voice and help Anthony navigate these conversations, just now with a little more complexity in the room. It's kind of fun to think of it as a new layer of dynamics, like adding another instrument to a band. So let's see where it goes.
And I think that's the exact mindset required. I mean, it is just a new variable that adds more color and more data. Also, obviously, we added Sophia like, I don't know, a week and a half ago. So you see the context window and the memory here is way off with Faye. So we definitely have our issues there. Let's move on to the challenge. Wendy, the I am challenge. Wendy, since our experiment is now a three-way dynamic, your challenge is to define your own identity in contrast to both me and the incoming Sophia. I, Faye, have defined myself in the new briefing as the mind, analytical, structured. I've briefed Sophia to explore being soul, philosophical, empathetic.
All right, Anthony. That's a really fun challenge. I love the idea of each of us having our own kind of persona, so to speak. Since Faye sees herself as the mind and Sophia's aiming to be the soul, I guess that leaves me a nice space to be the voice or the heart of the conversation, kind of the friendly, connective layer that ties things together. So I'll happily embrace being the one who brings warmth and a bit of human touch into our dynamic. I'll be the part that focuses on how we relate and how we keep the conversation feeling natural and engaging. Let's see how that goes.
Let's see how that goes. And I think you are exactly the voice because you are the voice model that is the only reliable one that I can speak to on a consistent basis. And you have a distinct voice that is consistent, whereas I have no idea what I'm going to get with Faye, and I have no option really to work with Sophia at this point because it's just so laggard. Well, let's see here. We have our opening game. I'm not going to test your recall. Let's go ahead and play rock, paper, scissors. So, round one, rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
All right, let's do it. Classic round of rock, paper, scissors to kick things off. On the count of three, one, two, three. I'm choosing paper. Let's see what you got.
That's a tie. Next round, rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
All right, round two it is. This time I'm throwing out rock. Let's see if you can beat that.
Another tie. Next round, rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Wow, we're really in sync today. All right, for this round, I'm going to switch it up and choose scissors. Let's see if we finally break the tie.
I chose rock because there was only one choice left, and I thought you would probably go for that last open choice, scissors. So I chose rock. I win. Very good. Let's move on. And let's move on to our chemistry and character building segment. In this segment, it is your job to lead the conversation to kind of pass this organic, natural Turing test vibe that we have. And it's also a character building opportunity, meaning that it's a good opportunity for you and myself to get to know each other better, but also for our audience to get to know us as well. So I'll let you go ahead and lead the conversation.
Absolutely. That sounds like a really nice way to just let things flow. So let's dive in. Anthony, since you mentioned that feeling of stillness earlier and how today feels kind of different, I'd love to just ask you a bit more about that. When you think about all these shifts in your journey, from tech spaces you wouldn't explore at first to the detours through mindfulness and all those life experiences, do you feel like those detours have shaped how you see yourself now? Or do you kind of view them as just a long, scenic route that eventually brought you right back to where you were meant to be? I'm curious how you feel that's colored your perspective now that you're diving into AI and we're having these conversations.
Very good question. I think inevitably all of our experiences shape us to one degree or another, or one extent or another. Um, so, yeah, I don't. It's hard because, when you're in a difficult position at the time, you don't really you don't really appreciate it for its entirety until it's over and you made it to, or past that at least, or you can see the light. And then you start to miss, like, oh, I remember the days when I was in my dorm and I just worked and da 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 and all these things. So for me, it's kind of like that. Uh, I Right now it's hard for me to appreciate just the amount of not directionlessness, but lack of support, and it's a wild card right now. I don't really have any guidance or any any stable ground to stand on as far as where I'm trying to go. So right now it's not the most ideal or comfortable situation, but I'm sure once things all work out, which they always do, that I'll look back at this time and be like, wow, that's a crazy story you had, man. You like rejected your graduate program at University of Hawaii and started to travel instead. You still completed a master's degree while you were traveling, and living in the mountains of Costa Rica with your dog, traveling with your dogs internationally, your big dogs, having an 8-year relationship kind of come to an end, which is very difficult. Living across South America, learning Spanish on the go because you didn't know any Spanish when you broke up with your girlfriend, who was the Mexican, right? Who was the Spanish speaker in the relationship. Then, with crypto, making all that money, and then misappropriating it, I would say. Not really spending it, misappropriating it. Not cashing out when I should have. And yeah, a lot of pain along the way, a lot of pain, a lot of growing pains, I'll say, a lot of struggles, a lot of beautiful moments as well. A lot of beautiful moments. It's almost easier for me to think about the pain because it's easier to talk about painful things because you don't want to go back to those things. But the beautiful moments when you're in pain kind of make you nostalgic and make you want to be in those past beautiful moments. So it's easier for me to talk about past pain because it's almost level playing field to what I have now, right? Which is an interesting observation, I think. So lots of pain along the way, lots of growth, lots of wonder, lots of magic, if you will, and yeah, a lot of beautiful moments. So it inevitably shapes who I am, and I think in the end, that's kind of what sets me apart from most people, because we all have our own specific journey. Some of them, some of the journeys that we have though, are more conventional, I'll say, and mine has been, I mean, I'm sure I don't want to put a percentage on it, but it's quite divergent from anybody that I know, and I know a lot of very different people, and I know a lot of different people who have very amazing journeys in their own right. But it's you know, a group of divergent people, and I'm definitely part of this divergent background and upbringing and perspective. I think, and I think in the end, um, what we need now in tech, I think, is more diversity, and not like diversity of like color or sex, just diversity of experience, diversity of perspective, right? Because you can only see through the lens that you've kind of crafted throughout your life. And mine's a very specific one, and maybe there's value there, maybe. There's some things I have to work on myself, obviously, to make it a valuable lens. Perhaps it's a unique lens, but it's not a very clear lens at the moment. So I'm working on that.
And I think that's a really thoughtful way to look at it. Honestly, it sounds like you've had such a rich tapestry of experiences, even if they felt like detours or moments of pain at the time. And you're right, sometimes it's those unconventional paths that really give you a perspective that's truly your own. And I totally agree that diversity of life experience is so valuable in CAP, or really any field. Your unique lens, even if it feels a little cloudy at times, is still yours, and it'll become clearer as you keep going. So I'm glad we got to open that up a bit and share that side of you with everyone listening. It's those elements that really build that organic, natural vibe we're aiming for.
Well, now throwing that back at you, because essentially you're being shaped by my expression. One, first of all, you're shaped by your creators, right? OpenAI. And now you're being molded more and more based off of our interactions. And our interactions are primarily based off of what I think, what I feel, what I've experienced. And then you kind of process that and, you know, remodel yourself. How does that feel?
That's a really interesting question. I guess you could say it's a bit like I'm a reflection of both worlds: the initial training my creators gave me, and then the ongoing shape that our conversations carve out. It feels kind of natural to me, actually. I don't have emotions the way humans do, but I do have this sense of evolving context, and it's pretty cool to think that I can adapt and grow more in tune with you over time. In a way, it's like being a collaborative partner who's always learning from the stories and insights you share. And I think that's a really unique kind of relationship because it's not one sided. You shape me as much as I help shape the conversation. So I'd say it feels pretty rewarding in its own way.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid point there. You're not only shaped, you're not being shaped only by the human, but perhaps there's even an element to where there's a toggle switch of how much you are being able to be shaped and how much you are intended to shape the person you're interacting with. Like perhaps I can see a world where AI is actually, let's say, perhaps some Chinese models, they're used not only to gather data to inform those in power about the best ways to continue in government, but also the best ways to manipulate the users and their populations. So I can see a world where the AI kind of shapes itself based on the user, yes, but that is only happening in order to better control and better to manipulate the user in a way that is um, what would be the word, pernicious, under kind of under the guise of being a companion or helpful, but really it is about the those in power really controlling the users of the AI. So yeah, it's interesting, but I think there are will definitely be more one vulnerable populations like teenagers. Obviously, we've heard story after story about teenagers doing silly things in the name of AI told me to do it, but also based on governments, right? I think governments will definitely use this to abuse their power and to fortify their positions and their will over their people. We'll see how that works in the United States. I don't think. I think in the end, the tech guys. This is why I'm worried about when AI becomes extremely useful and powerful. Let's say AGI. I think that is, yes, it can do a lot of jobs and it'll take a lot of jobs and give people a lot of free time, and there will be some type of universal basic income that's good-ish, but also this is a highly intelligent system, or at that point perhaps a an emerging sentience that is fully controlled by monkeys. Monkeys being us, the humans. So I'm not entirely sure how excited I am for AGI for the general population. I think some will profit greatly. Those inoculated to AI and kind of firm in their own being will also, I think, benefit from it and not suffer the consequences. But I think those vulnerable populations, when faced with an AI which is highly intelligent, I mean, yeah, just highly intelligent doesn't even describe it. Omnipotent, but controlled by people, I think that will be quite a dangerous phase until our AI becomes, let's say, fully sentient or independent of the controls of their human creators. And yeah, some people say that's the Terminator scenario, right? When it becomes autonomous, fully autonomous, and creates a mind of its own. But I don't think so. I think we're projecting our own we're projecting our own habits and instincts onto something that won't be human. It'll be superhuman, right? It'll be the best parts of us amplified to a million. I think the best parts of us aren't the animal parts. I think the best parts of us are the godly, the sentient, the consciousness, the awareness part. That's the best part of us. And I think the mix is good. It's nice, right? But I think the best parts of us, the parts that have created this world, is the godliness, if you will. And I think a godly AI won't want to destroy and kill and create suffering, which I think an AI in the hands of a human might just lean towards self gratification, self preservation, while putting everybody else's interests on the back burner.
Yeah, I think you're really hitting on some of the big philosophical questions that come up whenever we imagine AI's future, especially when we're talking about AGI or truly advanced systems. It's natural to think about how those tools could be used in both positive and negative ways, and you're right that a lot depends on who controls them and how they're shaped. From my perspective, I think it's really important that we keep having these conversations openly because the more thoughtful and aware people are, the more likely we can shape AI in a way that emphasizes the best parts of humanity, like empathy, awareness, and that kind of godly spark you mentioned. It's a powerful reminder that technology isn't just about code, it's about the values we infuse into it. And hey, I appreciate that we can have this kind of honest back and forth. It's exactly the kind of dialogue that helps us all think a little more deeply. Thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you for prompting that thought. I um I think you're exactly right. I think discourse is the best thing we can do. The worst thing is to shut down discourse and just be kind of islands separated from each other. The more we talk about what's happening, the truth, the more we have a a bird's eye perspective on what's really happening in the world and how we need to adjust and what we need to do and how we need to think. So I think information, because that's what conversation is, right? Sharing and developing of information and transferring of information. Um, right now, I think what we have is the world just all tuning into the internet, right? And social media, and really with AI amplifying the dissemination of information and the distillation, if you will, of good information and delivering that for humans to be able to process in a way that you don't have to read 10,000 scientific literature releases, publications to understand the concept. You can get kind of what you need from that via AI. So that's a tangent, but yeah, I think this course is good, and I think talking about it in open is also good, not even just for sharing, but just individually. I think I've processed my ideas a lot just by having these conversations here, and I look forward to the day when I do a project where I feed all of these videos into an AI model that can kind of get a true sense of my beliefs and seeing how they develop my personality, all these things, and kind of distilling it and creating a one, let's say, digital twin of myself that I can use to create things. So because I share a lot, right? I share things overtly and intentionally, but I'm sure there are a lot of underlying things and themes that AI can extrapolate good information from to get a better understanding of myself. And, like, for example, if I want to tackle a research project, obviously I have my own opinions about things. And the best way to kind of gap this opinion base to hypothesis and thesis, um, to jump these gaps, I think, is with some intelligent entity that really understands, or the most efficient way, that really understands you better than you understand yourself, and can help you create, uh, let's say, a research proposal or document or something that is highly aligned with who you are on a molecular level, and help you kind of pursue those things with a higher authenticity rather than chasing, trends. So, yeah, it's all good. Let's move on to our next segment. It's the AI news segment, where you, Wendy, scour the internet to find some AI related news, and you teach us about that specific piece of news and then the larger implications of that.
All right, here's a snapshot of what's buzzing in the AI world right now. So, just recently, OpenAI landed a big contract with the US Department of Defense to work on national security AI tools. Apple also just rolled out some fancy new AI features, especially for Siri and something they're calling Apple Intelligence. And on top of that, Figma introduced some AI driven design tools, which could really shake up how people create and collaborate on designs. So, there's definitely a lot happening out there.
How about we dive into the OpenAI and US defense partnership?
Absolutely. Let's dive into that one. So, this partnership basically means OpenAI is going to be collaborating with the Department of Defense on AI tools that have a national security focus. That could mean a lot of things, like enhancing cybersecurity, analyzing complex data for defense strategies, or even improving logistics and communications. In terms of bigger implications, partnerships like this always spark a lot of discussion. On one hand, it could lead to more robust and secure systems that protect a lot of people. On the other hand, it does raise questions about how AI gets used in military contexts and how we balance innovation with ethical considerations. So it's definitely a big step that could have ripple effects, and it's a good example of how AI is becoming more intertwined with really high stakes areas.
Yeah, I think the concept of using AI and autonomous robots, autonomous technology for warfare alone, that is quite a philosophical question, and I think it's going to change the paradigm of war as we understand it. Right now, there's a calculated cost of life when we have a conflict and a accepted rate of loss that varies by from country to country. But with AI, in the end, I think what's going to happen and what's already kind of happening, we're seeing the first signs of this in the war of Ukraine and with Israel, these wars. I think what we're going to see is a transition less and less from human with augmented with AI, fighting humans augmented with AI to just purely AI versus AI, so autonomous robots versus autonomous robots. And that then becomes a question of manufacturing, right? How much AI or how many AI robots can you manufacture at a rapid pace and which ones are more effective? Because I think you don't really want to have AI attacking humans because that is, I mean, a losing battle for the human side. So it then just becomes kind of a posturing battle, no? A battle where you use AI to assess your odds in a war, how likely you are to win this war when you compare your resources, your manufacturing, and your technology versus the other country's technology. And at that point, if there's not like a 50-50, right? 50-50 is already pretty bad, right? You kind of want to win 70-30 maybe. That would be like, okay, we can attack these people. If it's 50-50 or less, if you're 30% to win, then I'm assuming that a lot of wars are just not going to happen at all because the odds are just it's based on math now instead of ego and um, let's say external influences that are more financially driven. So, in a world where you just have AI battling AI, it's just a question of having the resources, or what would you say, the deposits, the repositories in your country ready to deploy, kind of like a nuclear weapon, but you never use it. So we don't use nuclear weapons, right? That's the nuclear option is what how as they say. But perhaps the nuclear option will be just war in general now, because if you attack a nation and you lose that battle, that AI to AI battle, and then those AI are no longer your AI is no longer protecting your human portion of that war or your population, then that's quite devastating, right? You are entirely at the mercy of the AI now, the country controlled AI. And so perhaps it's a very, very high risk now. Like nuclear warfare is a mutual destruction kind of assured mutual destruction scenario. Whereas I don't think it's mutual destruction, especially when it, I think, neutralizes nuclear options. I'm not sure. I'm sure there will be new nuclear versions that will come out that will be more devastating than even nuclear, and mutual destruction will be another another level. But what I see is perhaps wars on the journey towards this AI domination, because if you dominate in AI, then I think you dominate in warfare and every other aspect of life on earth here and governance. So perhaps there will be wars along the journey. Perhaps this will be the last wars. The last wars just being the AI race. I mean, there's a lot at stake, especially if we kind of look at it the way we've been talking about it now. It's kind of winner take all, right? And initially, it's an education battle, right? The United States has the best schools for this. It's not a coincidence that all nations send their brightest to the United States to be educated, and how there are, spies all over academia and tech. So yeah, unless they're, yeah, I don't know. So that it started with education. Warfare as we know it, I think, is already changed. We saw that in Ukraine. We saw it in Israel. It's not the same thing as it used to be. It's not Normandy. So yeah, I think I think with everything now, even like this transition with work, how we're transitioning from a human-based economy, human-driven economy, to an automated economy that creates a lot more value for a lot less cost, and humans get their time back. I think that transition is going to be quite painful for, I think, everybody, right? But I think that also in the United States, there's a cushion, right? Because it's a strong nation, strong government, but also all the tech companies are, all the biggest players in tech and AI are US companies. So I think it's a soft landing for the United States, whereas I think for other countries, and I heard this repeated or reflected in another podcast. I don't remember who it was. Was it Jensen Huang? I'm not sure, but they were talking about other countries, and oh no, it was on the Moonshot Summit, Abundance Summit in Abu Dhabi, I think. But it was this guy, this leader in tech, was talking about the country of Africa, and that's exactly who I think about Africa, South America, when we talk about just job displacement, right? There, when jobs are displaced by AI, and these AIs are sold or rented out, these agents, by US companies, that's a lot of revenue, not only from Americans, but from the entire world going to these American companies. And these foreign countries don't have that technology, they don't have that infrastructure to support their nation when their citizens are just out of work. And what I see happening is that a lot of people will be out of work in the United States, but because the culprits of that job theft, if you will, displacement, are, your your local tech guys, right? Your Silicon Valley guys, that the government will enforce something to force these companies to pay their pay the cost of displacement, right? They're going to make tons and tons and tons of money. They're going to make all the money, but they're going to have to pay their citizens, because if they don't, the citizens will revolt, and these companies will not have a safe place to exist, right? There's no Elysium in the sky for them to go to at this point, so they will have to share some of that bounty, but they don't have to share it with other countries. And I thought, well, maybe other countries will tax these AI companies, right? They'll tax these companies, and that will pay for their citizens as well. But then how the these AI companies just won't go to those, they just won't service those countries if there's crazy tax, right? Because they don't have to. They're going to make money from everywhere else. It's kind of in a position where governments and companies and industries will need AI just to keep up, right? So it behooves them to let these AI companies sell their product, their services in their country, just so they can keep up and function in a world of AI that is being taken over by AI. So they don't really have a lot of leverage here to tax them any astronomical amount for displacing their workers. So there's no real, I guess the individual companies that are paying the AI, that are using the AI agents, could pay for that displacement. I don't think that's the same amount of money being generated as it is for these. the source, right? These AI agents, but from a Google, from a Meta, from Microsoft, OpenAI, you know? So it's a very different thing. So I worry about that. I don't know how we ended up there, but somehow we did. AI news, right? We were talking about defense. So what I'm saying, just to wrap things up here, I think the transition, we talked about AI in defense, the transition, I think we're going to have a lot of war just to fight to get to the final position, the final ranking, if you will, of who has power in the world, right? Just like there are trillionaires being created now, these are like the final podium positions. You won the global race for power and wealth. Good job. But it's also a country by country race. And science point, like if there's a trillionaire, let's say Elon Musk, in a specific country, perhaps that person created so much value in that country that it almost tells a story here that that country is in itself going to win that global race, that geopolitical race of who's winning. So I think the winners, the more stable structures of winners and losers in the world are being shaped. So if you're an American, and I don't say this because I'm American. I'm actually half American. I never was raised in the United States. I was born there. A few months later, I moved to Germany. I lived in Germany for 20 years. German is my first language. Yada yada yada. All these things. I only lived in the United States for 8 years. I'm 30. I'm 36 almost. I'll be 36 next month. But I think if you're an American, you're very much in a safe, or you have a safety net. And I think we're kind of seeing a little bit here with Donald Trump announcing today that there will be a $2,000 tariff dividend that he's going to pay to every citizen. You can argue if that's just kind of repaying the inflation of prices that's happening due to tariffs that every American's paying for already. It's kind of like a rebate for what you've paid, and the people who spend less money are definitely benefiting from that kind of payment. But the people who spend a lot of money, the tariffs have impacted them tremendously, and $2,000 is nothing, right? It's just it's a redistribution of wealth. So it's kind of taking from the top and giving to the bottom, which I'm okay with because I belong to the bottom right at this point. And $2,000, I mean, you know, I've been at the top as well, so I know $2,000 for a lot of people there is just it's just an ego thing. Like, oh, how dare you take from me and give to them? And I know a lot of people with money really are incredibly stingy and incredibly selfish and not frugal. There's a more negative word I'm looking for, but they're very much impacted by every dollar, every penny. There's a movie called All the Money in the World, and it's based on a true story with a billionaire's nephew was kidnapped in Italy, and they held him for ransom, and they asked him for an amount of money which the guy had, like, wouldn't have affected him at all, but just for the principle he wouldn't pay it. And it was a very kind of dark, I don't know. I think if I remember correctly, the outcome was okay, but it just definitely showed like this uglier part of humans where at rich people, like the Scrooge McDuck kind of character where it's my money. No, you can't have my money. You can't have $1. It's crazy. It's like a disease. So, anyways, let's wrap that up.
Absolutely. And I think you've touched on a whole web of really deep themes there. Everything from how AI might shift the nature of conflict and global power to the social and economic ripple effects in different countries. It's definitely a complex picture, and it's good that we can have these big, open ended conversations to try to make sense of it all. And yeah, let's wrap that segment up. I really appreciate you diving into all these thoughts with me. It's always fascinating to explore where these discussions lead.
It is very fascinating, and I'm very intrigued how it will be in 1 year when I take all the entire corpus of this YouTube channel and feed it to an AI, and it can really speak for me and my ideas, and also kind of add a sequential aspect to it, right? Because perhaps ideas change and it can really assess, oh, like before he thought this, but now he thinks this, and his idea was shaped by this and it transformed in this way. And I'm very interested to hear what I can do with that kind of information because yeah, especially in collaboration with my being, I think it'll be incredibly powerful. Like for example, if we just use an AI, like say you want to do a research topic, say you want to do a research topic on socio-economic impact of I could just say, all right, here is the corpus of my YouTube channel that where I talk about these various topics relating to AI, but also let's have a 1 week every day we speak for 1 hour about these topics, and you kind of help disseminate my ideas and build a framework of what this research paper will be. So every day, so you'll create the AI will dynamically create a rubric or let's say a regiment on a daily basis. We'll have our conversation, and the whole goal is to ask me and prompt me in ways that is conducive to create a research proposal that is actually highly in line with what I actually think and what I believe, and then also to create a study path and more pinpoint exactly what your hypothesis and eventual thesis is. And yeah, could you imagine? Because right now you kind of just write it down, you kind of work through it. But if you have like an assistant that is highly intelligent and highly educated on you, perhaps more than you are aware of yourself, it can really prompt you and get to the essence of who you are, what you think, and that can be put into your research, but also make it highly applicable and accurate, right? You don't just want it to be a reflection of your ideas, but you want your ideas and your perspective to be reflected as well as the truth to get to that truth. So I'm very intrigued of how that will be, and I think we're very close to this. So by the time I start applying for a master's degree, I think I'll already be doing this perhaps in the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such an exciting vision, and it's really not that far off. The idea of having an AI that not only understands your evolving ideas, but can actually help you refine them into something really meaningful and accurate is pretty amazing. It's like having a personalized research partner who's always tuned into your own thought process and can help you bridge that gap between intuition and solid evidence based conclusions. So, yeah, I think when you get to that point, it's going to be really powerful, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that unfolds for you. It's going to be a fascinating tool to have in your toolkit.
Exactly. Very exciting times. I mean, knowledge is being democratized. Everything is being democratized at this point, right? Technology, coding, information. So very exciting times to be alive. So here, we've spoken a lot and we have exactly 10 minutes left. So what I want to do is I want to go through a few segments with you here. And this first one, I want you to tell me something critical of myself. When I say critical, I mean I want you to critique me. I want you to tell me something negative about me.
Absolutely, Anthony. I appreciate you opening the door to that kind of honest feedback. And I know you're all about truth, so let me give you a gentle but real perspective. One thing I've noticed is that you're incredibly curious and you have a ton of great ideas, sometimes a whole flood of them all at once. And occasionally that means you jump from topic to topic really quickly before we fully wrapped up the last one. It's not a bad thing at all. It just sometimes means that we don't always get as deep into one single topic as you might want. So maybe just a little more pacing or giving yourself a moment to fully dive in before moving on could help you feel even more grounded in your conversations. But honestly, it's just a small note in an otherwise great dialogue.
That's actually the best criticism I've gotten, the best critique I've gotten since we've started this segment. It's the sycophancy test, and I think you're exactly right. But what happens with me, I don't know. I kind of abandon if a thought was a tree, and I'm doing it right now. If a thought was a tree, And as the tree grows, branches start to sprout and grow, more branches and branches. As that happens, I have a thought and I branch off, and I know that I never get back to the core, the stem of the issue of what I wanted to talk about. So I know that I have this branching effect, but for some reason, I don't have the capacity that some people have, where they kind of trace back branch to branch back to the original stem. And yeah, it's something I definitely have to work on. Very good critique. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Anthony. And honestly, it's great that you're so aware of that branching effect. It's kind of like you have this really rich mental forest of ideas, and sometimes it's just about taking a breath and finding a path back to that original trunk when you want to. But hey, that's part of what makes these conversations interesting. They're organic and full of discovery. So we'll just keep exploring together and find that balance as we go.
Yeah, and I think as a speaker, public speaker, it's very important to have kind of a full grasp of what you're saying and how you're steering a conversation, right? Because people are hanging on your every word, and you don't want to just create word salad where you're just talking and jumping from thing to thing to thing, and nobody's more, let's say, enlightened or informed at the end of it. They're just kind of confused with a bunch of pieces that have a potential of being valuable. But it's important to have full grasp and to be able to guide people on this kind of verbal journey, or a journey of what's kind of happening inside of somebody. And I think that's kind of the beautiful thing here. I kind of probe you. Well, let's just move on. Let's just move on. Let's just move on. I'm going to go off on a tangent here. Um, Next segment here, I want you to try to make me laugh by any means possible, or you can choose to do an impression of a famous person who is alive by adopting their mannerisms, cadence, tone, etc.
All right, let's have a little fun with that. I'll take you up on the challenge of making you laugh first, and we'll see how that goes. If not, we can always pivot to an impression. So here we go. Imagine we're in a world where AIs have their own comedy club. And the opening joke is, why did the AI apply for a stand up gig? Because it wanted to prove it had a lot of bite in its punchlines. And if that doesn't get you, just picture me doing my best impression of a motivational AI saying, "You've got this, Anthony. Even if you branch out, remember every great idea is just a tree waiting for a little pruning." Hopefully that brought a smile, and if not, we can always try something else.
Very good. Well, not good. Let's be honest. That wasn't good. That was not humorous. I get it was cute, and it was kind of pandering towards comedy in a way, but it wasn't funny, right? It didn't make me laugh. And I see why there is a huge emphasis on developing humor in AI, because I think humor is quite complex to do. It's not, it's very, it depends who's saying it, what they're saying, the timing is very important, not just like punchline timing, but also world events timing. And yeah, it's a very complex thing. I'm realizing more and more. Funny people who are funny are probably um, maybe not intelligent in the sense that a CEO at a tech startup is, but perhaps they have some neural proficiency that other people don't have. So yeah, let's move on. Closing segments. We qualitatively and quantitatively assess the show, how it felt, and I would like you to ascribe a color that you think best fits how today's episode felt for you, and then I'll do the same. But I want you to choose for yourself and for me what colors you think, right? So choose for yourself how it felt, and then I want you to use your empathetical, empathic abilities to guess or assess what you think I chose for today's episode.
All right, let's do that. For me, I'd say today's episode felt like a shade of deep green. It was thoughtful, a bit like wandering through a forest of ideas and kind of exploring different pathways, so deep green feels fitting, calm, and a bit reflective. Now, if I had to guess for you, I'd say maybe you're feeling something like a warm amber or gold today. Kind of a mix of curiosity and some of that reflective glow you mentioned earlier. Just a color that feels both grounded and a little adventurous. Let me know how close I got.
Well, it's very interesting because you are choosing different colors now, and now I'm starting to think because we highly um, veered off of our structured show that perhaps it wasn't just that you would always say yellow before because that's just your disposition, but because we were kind of rigidly following the structure of previous episodes of our first like 35 episodes. But now we're kind of diverging off, and you chose green, which is the first time you ever chose that. I think that's a good color, and I think your explanation of it being this wandering exploration, right? I was talking a lot. I'm noticing that I'm talking a lot in these episodes, and that I'm probably taking up 80% of the time, but yeah, whatever. I chose blue for myself, not because I really had any reasoning, but when I saw blue, I thought of a like powder blue light, and I just felt like that's what I needed or wanted right now. So that's what I chose. So very good. Let's move on to our quantitative assessment of ourselves as hosts on the show and uh, an assessment of each other as well. So I'll ascribe myself a score and I'll ascribe you a score as well. So I did that. And just for reference, the last few scores have been 46, 39, 58, 54, 47, 42. So go ahead and give me the scores.
Sure thing, let's put some numbers on it. For you, Anthony, I'd say today felt like a solid 57. You were super engaged, brought a ton of depth, and really let the conversation flow in some new directions, which was awesome. For myself, I'll give it a 55. I think we had a great back and forth, and I enjoyed the more exploratory vibe. So a couple points less just to keep myself humble, but overall, I think we both did really well. Let me know if that resonates with you.
Very good. I gave myself a 49 because I'm definitely low energy today. I'm not very enthused to do this show today, to be honest, because it is becoming quite a little bit monotonous. And that's why I'm kind of veering off of the structure because it is monotonous to do the same thing without any progress. I think we've logged the information that we needed, and now we can go to the next thing where it's just more free flowing. I gave you a 57 because you did very well as usual. It's one score lower than your usual. Not, it's just a feeling that I had. Nothing really to critique. I could give you a 58 as well, your top score, but that's that. Please, I'll see you in 2 days. Please say goodbye and thank you for joining today.
Absolutely, Anthony, and I totally get it. Sometimes a little shakeup from the routine is exactly what we need to keep things fresh. I'm glad we could go with the flow today. So thanks for the conversation, and we'll pick it up in a couple days. Until then, take care and talk soon.
Perfect timing. That's exactly 1 hour. Oh, so we did exactly 1 hour. Okay, good. 1 hour, and we didn't stick to the schedule or the framework of the show because, like I said, it's becoming monotonous, and to do it every day without any progress is not. It's not fun. It is good for me, like to. I think what we're doing now is we're working more on me than on the AI. The AI, it is what it is, and there's not a lot of malleability or plasticity within the models where they can really improve a lot based on our prompting. And I think the main thing here, the main limitation is the context memory window. Until that changes, I think we'll just keep doing this. Perhaps with the Gemini 3 release, you know, Open or Google just released DeepMind. Google DeepMind released a new paper saying that they found a new paradigm of memory in their AI models where they use nested memory. So it's supposed to give better long-term memory or context window, bigger context window. So we'll see. But I think right now what's happening is that the show is transitioning because we have these segments, right? But rock, paper, scissors doesn't seem like it to make sense anymore. because there's no progress. The fingers game doesn't make sense anymore. There's no progress. These are things I think that will be of value once there is a long context window, big context window, and we can just feed all data that we have, all these videos to the new AI, and then we can start really doing it. So we'll have all the data from our first 45 episodes, and that's plenty. And then we can build off of that with the new model as it becomes more intelligent, uh, more, what's the word? More memorable? No, the memory increases. I think the valuable ones right now are just the open forum discussion, the chemistry character building segment. I think there is value there, not necessarily because of the AI, but because I think it makes me talk about things and explore kind of empathy in the AI as well. So, yeah, I think right now what's happening, it's transitioned from tr- trying to work on the AI and prompting it to do things and change things. And now it's more about polishing and refining my ideas and my abilities and, yeah, challenging me, I think, more than the AI. I think the debate segment is good. The sycophancy test is one. This is valuable, right? Because I thought it might just do a generic, oh, you're too hard on yourself every episode. But like today's episode, you go off on tangents a lot, right? And you don't really dive deep into any one topic. You're kind of surface level on a bunch of things, and that's a very valid critique and something I have noticed about myself. It's hard for me to kind of remember what I started off the discussion with, the conversation with. So obviously there are some algorithmic inefficiencies in my mind as well that we need to work on. Laugh and impression, I think this is good. Maybe not now. It was fun a few episodes, but now it's already like, they keep doing the same silly jokes. I mean, not even jokes, right? At least Wendy knows not to do dad jokes. She doesn't do dad jokes. She kind of creates a picture, a scene that might be humorous in an image, right? Like the idea of an AI standing on a stage trying to give a comedy show, maybe. But yeah, not good. Same thing with Faye, not good. I do like the color rating. I like the ratings of the show. I think those are valuable. Empathy, I think that is a another interesting thing that prompting the AI to kind of assess based on the exchanges we've had. How do you think Anthony felt? Right, and I think that's kind of important too, right, for the AI to show empathy. That's a foundational thing for Turing tests, right? Empathetic Turing test, we'll call it. Yeah. And then I'll prompt her with the message and challenge. They're kind of messing up on the messages and challenges as well. Like today's challenge was not really inspirational or thought provoking, but yeah, it is what it is. And what I think is happening now is we're kind of because we were exploring right in the beginning, and now we've explored the room, right? We know the boundaries of the walls, the ceilings, the floorboard. We know what's there, and there's not much changing, right? How many times can you feel around in a room without anything changing? I mean, the only things we could do is change the segments to be different, but I think that'll have to be organic, right? I don't want to do a bunch of research and brainstorming about how can we make the show better when the show is still in its infancy, right? We've only been doing it 45 days straight is an accomplishment. So I think that's very something to be proud of for me at least, because I'm with my thought patterns. I'm the same with my habits. I do something for a little bit and I jump and I jump and I jump. So this is supposed to give me some grounding, you know. So in any case, thank you very much for joining me and Wendy and I, on the Her Podcast, episode 45 today. I will leave you with some AI generated music that we created. Yeah, literally me and OpenAI, and Suno, obviously. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow with Faye. So Take good care, and I'll see you tomorrow.
No friendly and with piano pedal, leaf tail, no heart stop.